Hello guys, welcome to the JavaScript tutorial, and today we'll discuss about closure. A closure gives access to an outer function scope from an inner function. So JavaScript forms closures. A closure is basically combination of a function and the lexical environment. What is the lexical environment? The lexical environment or scope, it means where our code has been created or like where the function has been created. So lexical scope refers to the ability of a function scope to access variable from the parent scope. The inner function is lexically bound to the parent function. That means when there is a lexical scope, the inner function or the innerest function have access all the variables from the parent scope all the way up to the global scope. Now we'll discuss about the closure with one example. We have written one example that is like outer function. Inside that we have written one inner function, and there we are returning a cross b, and we have seen this type of examples in the current function also, right? The inner function can access the variable of a inside it, and so this is lexically bound to the parent function. Okay, so what happens actually when the closure has been created? So when we just call this function like the outer function, and I'm passing like a 5 as a parameter. So what happened? So it like store into the a, right? So basically that time it will create one function execution context. So in that function execution context, the 5, the a will be stored, right? And that time, if that time garbage collector comes and check, okay, that variable or like a has the reference inside the inner function, so it will not delete from the memory. Okay, as the garbage collector is not deleting the a from the memory, then the JavaScript engine put that variable into the closure box. I'll just show an example in here with console.log. Then I'm giving the, so I'll just use one debugger point here. We'll discuss about debugger point more later, but now if I'll just run this program, then you can see what is happening basically. So this is the d, so you can see the d. So this is the d means the outer function is returning a function, right? That is the inner function. So d is basically containing the inner function, we can see it. But whenever we'll go to the scope, then you can see there is a closure. So it's created already a closure box where a is defined and it's been stored like a 5. Okay, but if you'll see the a, I'm not using a inside the inner function. Can you just check the closure will create it for a also that time? Let's see what will happen. Just I'm not using here. Okay, I'm just returning b. That's all. Now I'll put the debugger point again. I'll check. Now d is giving me the inner function, but when I go for the scope, then we can see there is no closure box has been created because a does not has the reference inside the inner function. So okay, like when the garbage collector will see basically, okay, there is no reference of a inside the inner function, then it will be removed from the execution context and the function will be executed, right? So after the function execution is done, or it will leave that execution context, then a will be also gone. But whenever it sees the reference of a inside the inner function, then it will not delete that from the memory, it will just put into the closure box. That's why like when we try to call the inner function later, we can see that variable is there inside the closure box. How? Okay, so this is like a, right? We can give like return a, then b. Now if we'll just call this d, I'm just passing here uh, like 6, then what it should give like 5. then 6, right? Because A will be stored like a 5 and B is also passing 6. So it will give that result, right? We can console it. See, it's giving 30. And we can remove this console now and see it. It's giving 30 because when you're calling this outer function, that means like that time it's creating the closure box, and inside the closure box the 5 is there already. Okay, so A is 5 already is there and we're passing 6, that means 5 into 6 is giving 30. So that's how the closure concept works. But why we need the closure? We can use the closure as a memory efficient or like encapsulation. In two ways we can use the closure concept. Okay, how it helps for the memory efficient, we can give an example. Like I'm just creating one function, student id. Okay, student id. So now I just created one student card, basically student details. In the student details, like what I am doing, I'm just simply creating an object like name and the uh, IV, then id I'm giving uh, one. In that way I'll create like 5 to 6 more. Okay, 2, 3, then 4. Now I'll just change to 2, then 3, then 4. In here I'll give v1. Okay, fine. Yeah, so now what happened, because I store inside the student id so that nobody can access the student details from the outside. Okay, but I'll pass the index from the outside and I'll try to see like uh, by this giving id I want to see like what is the name of the student. Okay, we can filter it out, whatever we can filter it out also. So student details, uh, then I'm just filtering out where the student, that means s dot id equals to index. Okay, and it will give me that. So it's basically give me that array, right? Whatever the array will get, then this array I can pass it like st, pass it to the name, whatever the name comes. Okay, if doesn't, like if the student doesn't have the name, basically like if I'll say like if that student is not present, means the length will be 0 basically, right? If length is there, then pass it, otherwise like pass okay, return uh, no student. Okay, uh, yeah, fine. So I'm now consoling it. Student details created. Okay, if I pass this student id like okay, uh, 1. So now I'll just run this file. We can see the student details is created and it's returning a v. It's fine. But now if I'll call this again with 3, then 2, then what happened? Let's see. Yeah, see, so it's been calling all time like the student details been created. If I have the millions number of records, then for each and every call, it will just create the student details for the millions details will be created, right, for each and every time. But now suppose I'm passing three or two here, you can see like every time the student details has been created and it is giving me the name after that. But every time is creating, it's consuming the memory. So to reduce the consumption, we can use the closure concept here. How can we use it? Okay, now we can create the student ID closure. In here I'm just simply writing these things because that is like student details. Okay, in here I'm just returning one function. Okay, where basically passing the like what index. So in here I'll pass the index, or I can pass the index here itself, or I can pass index here. Index. So now we can pass the index here and we'll return what will return. So these things will write this concept like whatever. Okay, uh, so what is there, the index, right? mm, yeah, so student ID closer, now we can just create let with the student ID like this. Okay, and I'm just calling this function. Okay, I just comment this function right now. I'll check what is happening. Just call this three things here. What is happening? Let's see. Yeah, and I'll just call this console dot log, like student details created. See, in here we can see only one time the student details has been created. That means whenever we'll just do heavy calculation or heavy work, then we can just use the closure concept to avoid the memory consumption. We can use this closure concept. Okay, here we can see that the student only one time it has been created, and the several times we can try to access the student details and we can pass the index and we can get the result. So we can say the encapsulation also. Encapsulation means like this student details I don't want to be accessed from the outside of this parent scope. So it's a basically like I'm just hiding these properties from the outside access. Okay, so I can access it. So but I need this. So that's why I just created another function where I can access this uh, the parents scope and we can use it. That's why the closure concept came basically, right? Okay, so I think now the closure concept is clear to us. If it's not clear, please let me know, we can discuss more on that. And thank you for watching the video. We'll meet in the next session. Have a nice day.